We are back on Morning Line. Thanks for joining us on this Tuesday. Holly Ladd's with us. She's a health and wellness coach. If you have questions about your diet, how you're feeling, joints, anything along those lines, feel free to join in the conversation or sit back and listen. But the phone lines are open. What I want to ask you now, since you've last been on, what are you into now, or what are you dealing with clients? What's new out there that maybe you can share with our viewers? What comes to mind for you right now?
Well, what comes to mind is not that I'm working with it specifically, but this whole new research on brain health and what we can do to prevent and catch Alzheimer's early, cognitive decline, Parkinson's, all of these brain MS.
That's the top of the list for me. I'm glad you brought that up.
Great.
That scares me. You know, I mean, you see this happening. So what's new on that front in terms of what you can do?
So there's a doctor named Dale Bredesen, and he's a research doctor.
Okay.
And he actually has a new book out called The End of Alzheimer's, and I totally highly recommend it for anyone who's concerned about their brain health.
End of Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
Okay, and what's his name again?
Dale Bredesen, B-R-E-D-E-S.
Like our former mayor.
I believe, yeah.
Okay, End of Alzheimer's. All right, go ahead.
And so he's been working on this for over 20 years. And what they're finding is that, you know, brain disease is what we would call multifactorial. So you can't just pin it on one thing.
Okay.
It's just not one issue. It's like he likes to say, if you have 36 holes in your roof and you just plug one hole, you still have 35 other holes that are contributing to water damage. So we've approached this as just covering one hole and not really thinking about all the other holes that are contributing to, you know, brain dysfunction.
Okay.
So, and then Mark Hyman just had a docu-series online called Broken Brain, which is still available for purchase, and they address, you know, the role of diet, the role of sleep. I mean, sleep is so crucial to our brain health. The role of healthy fats. You know, we've deprived our brain of healthy fats in this sort of no-fat, low-fat period we went through in the 90s and early 2000s.
Yeah.
Exercise, you know, all of these lifestyle factors, and then there are obviously some genetic issues you have to
I mean, there are some
of,
people that may be more prone, and there's marking tests that they're coming up with where they can say, yeah, you may be predisposed to getting Alzheimer's later in life. Now that you can't really do anything about, right?
No, you absolutely can't.
But I suppose even if you're on that path, maybe there's things you can do that will delay it from occurring.
Well, yeah, so like the whole thing about genes we're learning is that, you know, genes are not what's the word I want? Predetermined. Yeah, it's like just because you have that gene doesn't mean that you're going to end up with that condition.
Okay.
If you nurture the gene and keep it in a healthy environment, it's called epigenetics, the study of the environment in which the gene exists. So if you're doing everything to keep it suppressed and not trigger it, you may avoid a horrible situation down the road.
Okay.
But if you're treating it like crap and treating your body like crap, well, then it's probably going to trigger, and then you'll get the disease. I mean, it's the same thing with, you know, predisposition to autoimmune or heart disease or cancer or any of the things out there. If we're really careful on how we treat our genes, we're learning that it doesn't necessarily mean because you have the gene you're going to get the condition, which I think is really hopeful for people.
All right, now so much what you talk about there is just in general a healthy lifestyle. I just want to know then, what specifically should we be doing to try, even when you're our age, to go about making sure our brain's going to stay healthy as we age? I don't know, I mean, just use it. But I mean, again, it's exercise your brain, but what foods, what things do you want to stay away from? What are we finding that clearly may be a danger that maybe we haven't thought about before?
We want to be on an anti-inflammatory diet.
Anti-inflammatory. Again, and as you say, stay away from things like, if you're gluten sensitive, what else are inflammatory foods? Sugars.
Alcohol.
Fried foods?
Fried foods, absolutely. Too many omega-6 oils. We were talking about oils earlier. So if your diet is loaded with canola oil, vegetable oil, corn oil, sunflower oil, safflower oil, which is prevalent in all of the foods that you find on the shelves in the supermarkets. Those oils are inflammatory when consumed in the amounts that we're consuming them. So you really want to stick to olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil, you know, those healthy oils, and do your best to minimize those, you know, canola, vegetable, which we've been taught that canola oil is great, but it really isn't.
Okay, so not the best. Those other ones are better along that line. All right,
so lots of vegetables, lots of color in your diet. You know, eat the rainbow every day. I've said this before on the show, but eat as many colors as you can every single day. Get your dark leafy greens, whole grains, not refined processed grains. I mean, it really is a return to the way our body has been fed up till probably the last 100 years.
Do you think it matters how you eat the rainbow? I mean, in terms of, if I have a plate of those vegetables and they're in their whole and I take them and put them in my mouth and chew them and swallow them, or if I take those and put them in a Vitamix and so now all of a sudden it's all blended together into a juice and I drink that. Is it okay if I've torn down the fiber walls and blended them up and still I'm getting the nutrition?
You're getting the phytonutrients, so you're getting all the nutrients, but you're not getting the fiber.
Not getting as much of the fiber.
Exactly.
Okay, it depends on how much I blend it, of course. But really, I'm still getting all the nutrients, which is really what I'm after, because I think I eat enough fiber anyway to begin with. But that doesn't destroy the nutrition, I wouldn't think, by just blending, right?
And even juicing, like even a juice, like a nice green juice, is you get all the phytonutrients, you're just not getting any of the fiber.
Now even more so there, you're not getting the fiber. Because when you do that, and that's one reason I went to Vitamix instead of juice. I'm not a big juice guy anymore, because all this fiber went to the side. I'm like, what a waste. And so now, with a fraction of what I needed to make juice, I throw it all in the Vitamix. It's all blended up. It's not as juicy clear, but I think I'm still getting bits of fiber in there with that, right?
You are.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if tearing up the fiber of it in a blender does anything to the nutrition, but I guess it doesn't. It's all in one.
Yeah.
And that's an easy way for me to get a bunch of it away in the morning.
Yep.
Do you drink coffee?
Maybe once a week.
Tea?
Tea.
Oh, yeah.
Green tea.
Kombucha?
A little bit. I'm not a huge kombucha fan, but it's good.
Is that because, not everyone likes the taste of it. It's a fermented green tea or something like that that has a lot of probiotics in it, I guess.
It's great for the gut.
It's good. Okay.
But you also have to be careful how much sugar is in it, too.
Oh, yeah.
Because it can get pretty high.
You can. I look at that. And in general, it doesn't always have a lot. Some of the store ones I buy, I always look, and it's maybe 5 grams of sugar or something. That's not bad at all. Let's go to Brian. Hi, Brian.
Hey, good morning. I'll make it quick because my phone's running down. The corn industry, I grew up in Southern Illinois, a lot of corn farms, and we had a big company called Corn Products. And in the 70s, they really pushed corn, what's that, corn syrup?
Caro corn syrup, Caro?
High fructose corn syrup.
No, instead of using sugar, they use high fructose corn syrup.
That's right.
And you could smell it all the way across town.
Wow.
And, you know,
that's right.
That stuff, they really pushed that, the food industry, and they lobbied Congress, and they used it as a food additive to bulk up the food along with sugar and corn syrup and corn oil and stuff like that. And I've always tried to not use a lot. My lady friend pushes olive oil a lot, and you know, I try to stay away from that corn syrup. I don't know why they put it in all the food like that. And I drink a lot of water, and you know, I got that brita water filter, and then of course I drink my bottled water, my Perrier, and you know, the bubbly water like Nick likes. So,
right. You know what? You're right about the corn syrup. It's interesting. Some of the soda companies came out with corn syrup, which is in their main soda, and then a soda that all of a sudden steps back in time before what he describes when it was made with pure cane sugar.
Right.
And you can taste the difference. Now, I don't drink either because they're so full of sugars, but if I did, I prefer the cane sugar one. I don't know. Now, corn syrup was and is still everywhere. It is. Corn is the most subsidized crop in this country by far. Everything from the foodstuffs to ethanol. It's crazy. We feed it to our cows. You know, it's a huge part of the cattle industry. It's, you know, if you really look, if you're really curious, because the history of corn is quite interesting in this country, because pre-1970s it was, you know, it was a crop, but it wasn't like this super crop. And a movie that I love, a documentary, is called King Corn. And it goes into the whole detail on the subsidies to corn and, you know, what happens in the high fructose corn syrup and pushing it. And, you know, really, it's a super cheap ingredient for food companies. Right. So, and it's really bad. It's worse than sugar. Yeah, the corn, maybe because it's manufactured. Now, the bottom line is you go back to when the Pilgrims came and the Native Americans and they taught them how to grow corn. I mean, corn, you know, if grown I mean, corn is a form of sustenance. Corn is not a bad food or vegetable unto itself. Corn on the cob or whatever. I mean, right? I mean, you may not, I'm not sure. Do you eat much of it? But I mean, corn, as it is when it's not processed, I don't see how it's that much different than potato or tomato or anything else. I mean, it's something that comes from the ground and it's grown and it's healthy. Yeah, I mean, it's as long as you're not eating GMO corn, which is sprayed with tons of pesticides, which, you know, wreaks havoc to our bodies, really. Yeah. But organic, like a couple of times this summer, I'll have some organic corn on the cob or do like a corn salad, or, you know, I think that if you are sticking to organic, you know, maybe locally grown here in Tennessee, there's a lot of great corn.
eating it seasonally and not doing the processed, packaged, you know, tons of ground corn, you're probably, you know, fine. But it's considered a grain, which for a lot of people can cause issues. So I think it just, again, we go back to the beginning of the call. We're all different. We all have different chemistry. We all have different biochemistry. So some people are probably more predisposed to be able to digest corn than others.
All right. Now, when you say GMO, again, that's genetically modified.
Correct.
Okay. Now, you're right. I think everyone would prefer to stay away from heavily pesticide sprayed vegetables and fruits. Now, if they can come up, and I don't understand, I'm more open to the science of it. I know people, and I assume you're probably like this, who are just steadfastly against anything that's genetically modified. I'm not. I'm open-minded to it, case by case. If you can come up with a genetically modified crop that makes it resistant to the horrible, horrible pests that destroy the crop so that you don't have to spray it, I don't see what's wrong with that.
I don't either. I'm not against it either.
Okay, but a lot of people, it's GMOs. No, I understand. What's that? It's not?
That's not how they work right now, really.
Well, now, but, all right, so you're saying the GMO modified crops are being modified for what reason? The reasons are to make them more resistant to freeze, to make them produce more, to maybe make them resistant to certain pesticides. What other reasons are there to create something that's genetically modified?
Well, the theory,
I mean, those are all good things.
No, the theory was that they'll create more food and it'll be more, but actually the theory is not panning out. It doesn't really create more food, and they are being sprayed with more pesticides because they're resistant to the pesticide.
So why are they spraying them? Are they spraying them with more pesticide because they're resistant to the pesticide, not the bug? And so that means they can kill the bugs by blasting them with the spray. And again, in that example, I agree. What's the point? I mean, come up with a genetically, resistant plant to the bugs, not to the sprays. That's stupid.
So here's the difference. Like these hybrids, when you hybridize something to make it stronger, that's fine, right? So you can have hybridized, we've had tomatoes that have been hybridized, our wheat has been hybridized.
Meaning hybridized means you're kind of combining, because see, like for instance, to me, the greatest creation in the apple world, okay, but next to the taffy apple, which by the way at Halloween, I just love those things, is the Honeycrisp. I'm sorry. Too. Now, that is not one that was found naturally in nature. That was created in a lab by experts in the field. I heard a great story on NPR with the guy who created it. And they have some other new ones coming out. Now, if you haven't had a Honeycrisp, it features all the things I think we love in an apple. It's super sweet and delicious. But it's crunchy. And usually it was one or the other. You can get a Granny Smith, which is crunchy but kind of sour. You get a Red Delicious, which is sweet and mushy. This has the best of both worlds. It is a fantastic, and they're not cheap. In fact, right now they're on sale at Kroger, I think. But they're fantastic. So what do you think, though? I mean, so that's a hybridized, not a genetically modified.
Correct. And I'm not a scientist, and I couldn't explain to you the whole details on the difference. But genetically modified, sometimes you're bringing in different species even, putting a fish gene in corn or you're just really messing with nature. Okay, and I see how that needs to be monitored or whatever, you don't want some mad Frankenstein coming up with some crazy apple fish. But I'm not one of these people that is just steadfastly against GMOs, period. Now, there may be some viewers that feel differently, and I'd like to hear from you if you do. I'm not saying you're wrong. It's just I haven't seen how it's across the board a bad thing. And I think the science is still out there. I mean, there's no, and I'm more in the, we don't know that they're safe yet, so I kind of avoid them. It's like guilty until proven innocent. So I'm sort of in that camp. But if they can prove that, hey, there's no problem, I don't have a problem. They can come up with a strawberry that is more frost resistant, and after you pick it, it lasts longer on your table or in the fridge before it starts getting soggy or spots. And it's just, because you do a little change genetically, it still has nutrition, it's not going to make it. What's wrong with that? All right, listen, we'll take a break. When we come back, Lily, Bill, and others, we're going to get your phone calls in our final segment right after that. Lily, Bill, stay where you are. We'll be right back.